Welcome back for our feature tonight on the Scarlet Standard. If you've missed the first two streams we've had, first stream we had Nick Urias from San Jose State. We did a preview with him about the Spartans and the Spartan program. Just a few moments ago, we did a live stream interview with UNLV wide receiver Coy Moore, who transferred to UNLV from LSU and Auburn. That was great. If you guys have a chance, once I post it, go back and watch that. He's a great listen, great follow. But now we're going to be joined by Matt Ortiz from the Sons of Montezuma podcast, which is a podcast about San Diego State and San Diego State athletics. San Diego State has an interesting season coming up, and it's going to be great to hear from Matt to get his info and his diet. What's the state of the San Diego State program? So, Matt, welcome on. How are you doing today?
Hey, man. Thank you for having me on, Mike. It's a pleasure being on with the Scarlet Standard. I've been wondering when UNLV was going to start getting their podcasting set up. And I've been always looking for, a show out there to pop up, and good to see you guys. Good to see you on here.
Thanks, man. I started this back in April, and it's kind of just taken off. Ironically, the reason I joined a little bit after you did was they just gave me finally gave me a meet credential day. So I was very, very excited. So it's getting the right steps. A lot of Vegas platforms talk about everything sports in Vegas because UNLV and UNLV athletics sometimes gets put on the back burner. But my platform is solely UNLV news, Mountain West stuff. That's all I focus on. So if you haven't had a chance, a lot of my information's on Substack. So I'll drop you a link. You can check it out. But I wanted to start this series, so I started, like I mentioned in the intro, with Nick Urias from San Jose State. My goal is to try to go through and try to get previews of everybody. There is a lot of animosity between some of those schools going to the Pac-12 and the Mountain West schools that are staying. I'm not one of those. I think, people did it for the reasons they did. That's it. But I want to focus on San Diego State and what the football program looks like in year 2 of Sean Lewis. They're trying to balance.
I got to cut in though, because I'm glad you addressed it. I mean, it kind of is the elephant in the room a little bit, right? The Pac-12 teams that are leaving. So you tell me really quick before we get into San Diego State talk, UNLV, what's going on? Why aren't you guys coming with us? Why aren't you guys jumping on the Pac-12 train and saying goodbye?
Their president that resigned in December, fuck them. That's part of my language, but that's my opinion. So what people don't, UNLV's president resigned in December, right after they inked the deal to stay in the Mountain West. What people don't know about that Mountain West deal that they signed was, obviously they have their debt because they're highly investing in their athletic program with, Allegiant Stadium, starting to, pouring more money into NIL, being a coach like Dan Mullen, not paying him a cheap amount of money. They're paying him $3.5 million plus per year. But what people don't realize is on that first round of the Pac-12, and Keith Whitfield, UNLV's president, was on the board of regents. He was the chairman of the board of regents for the Mountain West Conference. So I don't know details of what obviously went down, but I think that they did it for a reason. Gloria probably promised them something that maybe they weren't going to get. We don't know what after all this legal stuff is done, what's really going to be what, and it could be high, could be low, could be middle. They could get screwed and get nothing. I've written about they could be the ones that got stuck and basically screwed themselves, but they also could make well and do what they needed to do, be competitive for the next couple years. If CFP expands, they can still compete, be viable. But at the end of the day, so then Whitfield resigned in December, at the end of December. So UNLV's currently still without they have an interim president. I don't know if they've named him president yet, but Chris Heavey's their he was their provost. He's their interim president now. So Harper was in a tough spot. And I think, that's why much from him, because I think they tell him not to say anything, not to really talk to the media, because you really don't, right? Like San Diego State's athletic director has been very vocal about the whole thing. Obviously, Jeremiah Dickey at Boise State's very active, very vocal on Twitter and social media. Harper, the only athletic director that I know that made his Twitter account private.
Yeah, hey, you know what? Kudos to you for being so transparent in that answer. I think you being candid and just shooting from the hip. Hey, they might have got screwed. They may get screwed, and kind of see how things shake out, see how they perform in the Mountain West without these Pac-12 teams. I think you guys are obviously going to be the big dog there in football for sure. Basketball, well, I think it'll elevate you guys as well. But thank you for being honest in that answer and just shooting from the cuff, man. I didn't know that about your president at all, but I can definitely understand why that would dictate an athletic director's not really being that boisterous and vocal.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, from what I've read and I've heard, like, they turned them down 2 or 3 times, but it's also what was offered. I don't think that they would have left without a full share. Obviously, they locked themselves in. And, what people don't realize is if you haven't read the grant of rights that UNLV signed, it is, even if they wanted to leave, they screwed themselves in media money. And it's a very bad deal that they signed. So they, in my personal opinion, I think that they held a standard of, let's hope maybe this blows up in litigation and they can have an out. That could have easily been the play and it wasn't. It still could be, you never know, but that could have easily been what it was like. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to talk to Harper or be involved with that, but it's just, let's figure it. I think that the short term, they took the short term goal and short term route than thinking about their long term future. Wow. And I will say, have sold, their NIL fund and their NIL presence has sold recruit. You can look it up. It's in the Las Vegas newspaper from some of these guys that they sold them on their going to a Pac P4 at the end of 2032. And it's out there. I'm not going to say it's not and deny that. It's in Vegas local newspaper from the president of the UNILV, which is their NIL collective. So I don't know they've been looked at by the Big 12 before. That was way back in 2010 when basketball was still consistent. Mountain West tournament team. Football wasn't there yet. The school wasn't a tier 1 academic school, so they weren't there yet. But now you have football in one direction, then you have basketball that's not. So they still have flaws and they still have a long way to go. But I think at the end of the day, it's my opinion. If they're not going to classify, I'm not. This is not a knock on the Pac-12, so don't take it that way. If they're not going to classify the Pac-12 as a power conference, I think that it's going to end up being you're going to have a super G5 league at some point because it's going to have to.
Well, I don't know, man. President Trump acknowledged that Pac-12 is a power conference. I'm joking. That's a little sarcasm. He did.
No, I got you. I'm just saying, because they had the autonomous status. They don't have the autonomous status. What is it going to look like? What is the new CFP going to take it as?
There's so much more to shake out come 2030. And like you said, I mean, the Big 12 that was so long ago. When as far as those looks into any school, I mean, it's a completely different conference now from 2012. Good Lord. But I hear what you're saying. In that respect, maybe you need to rephrase that UNLV actually is looking for the long term, for their best interest in the long term. They're just looking, to hopefully things shake out down in the future that in past 2032.
Well, you want your short term to get out of the debt that they're in, because no one's going to deny the debt that they're in.
Yeah.
It is what it is. There's so many schools around the country now that are popping up with these 20 debts. It's a glaring look when it's a G5 and it's not a Power 5 or Power 4. So it's kind of what is going on there. But it's kind of a short-term fix, but it could end up being a long-term fix. It's you don't know what direction it's going to go. If this football train takes up and there are 2 or 3 CFPs in the next 6 years of this whole thing, maybe it happens. If they don't and the football train falls down and Pastner doesn't get basketball where it needs to be, then it just falls apart. So it's a very interesting time to be a UNLV supporter. There's a lot of UNLV fans that are very vocal on Twitter that should not be. They come in the masses, but we all got them. That's every fan base. So I'm not taking a shot at anybody or any UNLV fan. I've talked my fair of shit on Twitter. I'm sure anybody else has, being a sports fan. That's just how it goes. Credit
to UNLV giving you that media credential, man. Credit to them. I'm not one of those Aztecs fans that I won't give UNLV some credit. Where credit is due. So props to you for that.
And I'm not one of those UNLV fans that's a San Diego State hater. You as much. I mean, the aspect, somebody just commented and said that your dirty secret is you're in a passionate relationship with UNLV Rebel.
I know the Fiend very well. And that's actually my podcast co-host, one of them. Sons of Montezuma. First off, before we go any further, Mike, thank you for bringing us on here again. Sons of Montezuma, San Diego State athletics, football, basketball, softball, baseball, that good stuff. We try to do our best coverage from a fan's perspective as possible. And we've got a lot of passionate fans. Of course, SD Sports Fiend there in the chat. He's one of my podcast co-hosts. He is one of those passionate fans. We love to kick the Rebels when they're down, man. I'll be honest with you, man. We love going to Vegas and taking over Viejas North, whatever you want to call it, East.
Hey, to be fair, they were down last year in basketball, but we swept you guys. So
This is true. Deaton Thomas is a stud. I don't know what's going to happen with him in his future, but
I will say
Yeah.
he did not take. I love him as a player. Great kid, great athlete. He did not take criticism very well on social media. So SEC criticism could potentially be a problem.
Don't look at the comments, Deaton. Don't look at the comments. I mean, yeah, social media, we're on it. Everybody's on it. But if you're an athlete, especially if you want to be a pro athlete, have somebody else do it for you. Just give the phone.
I will say, California, you guys being a San Diego, California podcast, take what he could take the Oakland A's or Vegas A's and just turn the comments off.
This is true. I was an A's fan when I was a kid. I love the Bash Brothers, so I'm gonna enjoy those games in Vegas when they move. I will. So, anyways, yeah, man. Thanks again. I don't really dive too deep into the old expansion, litigation, all that nonsense. My guys on the team, they're into that stuff. I'm not a masochist like that. Once we were accepted into the original Pac-12, and then it didn't happen. I kind of I tuned out, man, and just let my boys, they run with it, do the deep diving, because once that fizzled out, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I feel I'm in a similar boat with like this whole UNLV thing. It is what it is. Like you take it, you got to, some fans don't want to accept that it is what they are. They're in what they're in. And you're going to have to, if you want to prove you can play, schedule those schools and beat them. It's, that's the mindset you got to take. If you want your shot at Boise State to have a good, or, for football wise, or, any of those schools basketball wise, the Gonzaga, San Diego States, and those, when they're gone, you got to schedule them and beat them if they'll even take a game with you at that point.
Well, this is the alternate universe, man. I put that out there. I mean, we're here on this thing to talk football, but you know what? It's always going to go back to basketball at some point. It's always going to happen. Boy. I'm excited for this year, man. We love getting up there, and our team is pretty stacked. So I hope you guys are ready on this final year.
I'm very interested to see the team Pastner put on the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, they're small. They only have one center, but they're long, they're athletic. It'll be interesting to see how his play style is too. They have a pretty brutal non-conference schedule. And then obviously, going into the league, people don't understand from a basketball perspective, the great ad for the league. They're a good program. If you throw them in with San Diego State and Utah State and Boise State, Colorado State, New Mexico, we'll see with them. But, you're going to have good games every night, and it's going to be great. It's going to be.
I'll admit it. They've gotten our number a few times when we've played them. But there's just no comparison. Their fans are nuts. There's a lot of controversy with the school. A lot of people hating. I get it. I understand it. And I don't mind it. As a fan, bring them in early. I don't care. Bring them in. Let's have some fun on the way out the door. It's a smart move for them to be in there. Smart move for the Mountain West to include them in there early. Let that transition happen as smooth as possible and let them elevate their brand while everybody's together in it. But I can understand why our guys are a little salty over it. But as a fan, I love it.
That's one of the arenas I do want to watch the game in, because I want to see how crazy those fans actually are.
2 years ago, our national championship runner-up season, we saw it was like a Jerry Colangelo classic out there in Phoenix, and it was us. I want to say St. Mary's, GCU, and I can't remember who they played, but they were there, and they brought it. Of course, it's in their backyard, but they showed out, man. They showed out, as they should have. It was entertaining.
So let's dive in a little bit to San Diego State football. Obviously, Sean Lewis is in year 2. You have a new quarterback. I mean, the Aztecs are trying to balance two worlds, trying to prove that they can still be, the Mountain West contenders that they've been the last couple of years, other than, last year, and preparing for their future in the Pac-12. Obviously, that's no small task with Lewis going 3-9 last year and offense ranked near the bottom of the league. What's What's your expectations for them this year, and where do you see this program projecting and going?
What are my expectations for 2025 from the Aztecs? Like you said, Sean Lewis, second year. My expectations as a fan is to see improvement. And that's really it. 3-9, we're not accustomed to that. But if we're being real, Aztecs football has been on a steady decline the last 3 years. It's dropped down. That wasn't supposed to happen last season. There's a lot of reasons why it did happen, but turning the page to 2025, just want to see improvement. I think this team is bringing back a lot of good pieces, a lot of experience, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And on the offensive side of the ball, they're bringing back guys that, another year under their belt in the system. So there's no excuses this year. I'm not looking for excuses. I'm not looking for, explanations up the yin yang. What we're looking to see is just improvement over the year. Doesn't have to be a contender for the conference. I think that's unrealistic at this point after seeing last season. So I'm just looking for competent football, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and improvement.
What is your is this year, what a realistic expectation just to make a bowl game? Would that be a success for them? Or do you think that, you just mentioned that maybe not being the higher level competing in the Mount West Championship. So what is a bowl game, a realistic expectation in your eyes?
Me personally, I think a bowl game is a realistic expectation. I think in this day and age, right, you win 6 games, you break even, you're eligible. So we're talking about bowl eligibility. I think that is realistic. Last year they lost, I want to say that they lost 6 games by a total of 9 points. So they were very much in a lot of these games. Might want to fact check me on the amount of games in that 9 points, but I know that's a sticking point. That's a talking point with the team this year, looking back on the mistakes of last year and how close they were to beating teams like Washington State, beating teams they should have beaten on the road, like a Central Michigan. There's a lot of different factors that went into, losing those games. 3 games by 9 points. Thank you, Fiend. So those 3 games, you're bowl eligible. 6 and 6. Is it realistic this year? I think with what they've added and what they've brought back, absolutely it's realistic.
Yeah, they lost to Washington State by 3, Central Michigan by 1, and New Mexico by 5.
Never should lose to New Mexico at home. Never.
No, absolutely.
Unless they're coached by Rocky Long, but that's not happening ever again. So it's all good.
No, those days are long.
I miss those.
Back from Jason Eck. Obviously, he's brought in an FCS coach before, and that did not work out as expected when they brought in Bobby Houck. Houck's back at Montana where he was doing pretty well, but just didn't work at UNLV. He made 1 bowl game, but he just could never get over that hump.
Hey, we love Bobby Houck in San Diego, man. He was the man for us. He was a assistant head coach and a special teams guy, full of energy. I love the guy, seeing him on the sidelines. And that's a big difference. I don't want to just gloss over that. Those championship contending teams that the Aztecs had, you talk about a coaching staff that had so much experience, previous head coaches that were assistants to Rocky Long. They loved to coach alongside him and under his tutelage. So Bobby Houck, hey, it didn't work out for UNLV, but he was a quality coach.
I always forget that he went to San Diego State right after UNLV, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's a good connection between our 2 programs, especially on the football side. Of course, you guys have Hunky Cooper right now, who was a former player for you guys, but he was also with us for a long time, wide receivers coach. Can't say. I've only met Hunky once, but I can't say better things about that dude. His reputation preceded him with a lot of players, a lot of people around town. So
one of your guys' best running backs of all time is from Vegas, Dono Pumphrey.
Vegas, but also claimed San Diego. He split time. I get it. Half the family out there, half down here. So hey, he's always gonna be in San Diego.
He plays high school ball in Vegas, so
we'll give you that. We'll give you
that much at least. It's kind of like let's just say who is it? USC's quarterback Jaden Mayaba went to UNLV. Obviously, he plays high school ball in Vegas, but he's from Hawaii, so he says he's from Hawaii. So it's kind of things. But I think seeing that, what is your expectation from Jaden at quarterback?
Jaden Denegal, okay, the transfer from Michigan. Before I got to see him at practice, he's coming from Michigan on a national championship or was on the national championship roster, right, as a quarterback. So he's got that experience. Nothing he sees at San Diego State is going to wow him. He's not going to come in bright-eyed. Is he going to come in excited to have the opportunity to be the quarterback, starting quarterback? Absolutely, and that's exactly what he did in fall camp. He impressed me. Of course, physically, his stature, him along with Burt Emanuel Jr., who came in from Central Michigan. You take a look at them on the field, and you're like, okay, this is a different looking quarterback than what we saw last year with Danny O'Neil. No discredit to Danny. He's in Wisconsin, for crying out loud, right? Excellent thrower. But Jaden's coming in with that championship level experience in Ann Arbor. Just those areas of practice and preparation and everything that goes into being at that highest level, I think he already brought with him, and it's infused into the team. The first thing that some of the captains on the defense have told me is just the leadership that he's already brought to the room. So he's already showing and proving that he's confident enough. You see him out there in practice. He can make all the throws. He's big. He's rangy. He's very fluid in the pocket. The footwork is there. All those good things that you want to see from a starting quarterback. He can escape out of the pocket. All that good stuff, right?
Yeah,
but I haven't seen him in a full game situation, right? Until you see that, the expectations are still just expectations.
If you really think about that quarterback room at Michigan, and that athlete that was in there, you have Dengal at 6'5", 235. You had Alex Orji, who's at UNLV, who looks like a tank. And then, Davis Warren was no small athlete either. And then you had J.J. McCarthy in front of him. It's when you think about wow, this guy looks like, a high level athlete, because he is. And then you see them, at that school. It's like, well, yeah, he's just another guy here.
Well, that's what Jim Harbaugh does, man. I mean, that's who he recruits. Everywhere he's gone, he's been able to bring in that physical element to the game that you can't coach it. But, when you got a guy in there that's able to sling it and run with it. I'm interested to see you guys' quarterback from Michigan as well. Is he going to be the starter there for you guys?
They haven't announced the starter yet. Mullen said that they're playing both.
Okay. And then that's a little bit of an element here at State as well. Coach Lewis hasn't shied away from wanting to bring in Burt Emanuel Jr. in packages, right? He's made no mystery about wanting to do that. But after seeing fall camp, it was very clear from week 1 to week 2, Denegal he took his game up another level, especially in the passing game. So hoping that continues to happen and that improvement carries on.
I don't think you're going to see UNLV have a starter until they play UCLA. That's my opinion. Okay. They play Idaho State, obviously, Saturday afternoon. You're going to see 3 or 4 quarterbacks play in that game. And then they go on the road to Sam Houston. Sam Houston's defense is projected to be absolutely terrible. So you probably will see Calandra and Orji. I think that the UCLA game week 3, week 2, I think that's when you'll see who's starting, really. But I think whoever starts has a short leash. It's
really too bad we don't play each other this year. It's a little head scratcher, but I appreciate you bringing me in. Even maybe that's makes it a little easier that we don't have to play each other this year and see those 2 quarterbacks go toe to toe, 2 Michigan guys.
I would have loved to see it, honestly. 2 guys trying to prove themselves, prove a point, and see which one either turns the ball over like crazy or balls out for 400 yards.
You ever been to Ann Arbor?
I did not go when we played there 2 years ago. What was Odom's first year? So I guess 3 years ago.
So I got to go back when we played them in the big house back in who's their quarterback? Who was their coach? It's escaping my name.
Brady Hoke.
Brady Hoke's first year.
Yeah, Brady Hoke.
Their quarterback. His name is escaping me right now. Is it?
DeMarcus Robinson.
DeMarcus Robinson. Yeah.
I remember he was. Wasn't he before they brought in-state football back? He was on the wasn't he?
He was on the what? I'm sorry.
He was on before they brought the NCAA football game back, the video game. He was on the very last cover, I think.
I think you're right. Denard. Denard. Yeah, man. Ann Arbor's unreal. It's unreal. Big House is unreal. The culture they have there is ridiculous. So you're getting quality guys coming in. Both teams. We'll see how things shake out. But on our end, we know Denegal's the man. He's gonna have to do it.
Obviously, like you mentioned, offensively, the exploit pretty simple. Just be better than last year, because last year was basically the floor. Like you mentioned, this year's staff has made it clear that they're going to tailor the offense more towards Denegal's strengths. So how do you see how do you see Sean Lewis and that staff catering to what Denegal can do?
Well, I think it's going to be important for them not to be a one focus offense. Yes, Denegal is important. He's very important, right? Quarterback position, especially at state, needs to be the most important position. And for many years there, even when we were winning, it wasn't the best player that we had out there on the field. It was running backs. And so this season with this offense, with Denegal back there, yeah, it's going to be on his shoulders, but there's a lot of help in that running back room. I think really pounding the rock. Got some massive guys on the offensive line that transferred in. And so there's a lot of experience there as well. If they can really lean on that as their strength and just play bully ball, and that's kind of taking it back to what we've been used to with the Donnell Pumphreys, with the Rashad Pennies, even with the Greg Bells.
Down year last year, the Marquez Coopers of the world. He was a very solid. He was a smaller back, but he was pretty solid.
Absolutely. I mean, just last year, it was an unfortunate mix, having a true freshman quarterback. Offensive line was just absolutely porous last season. I mean, you're talking about Joe Borjon, who was projected to be a starter. Left tackle goes down in the first game. Even before spring ball, our offensive line coach brought in, Bill O'Boyle, left for Northwestern even before spring ball. So, the offensive line was kind of just, it was in flux, it was kind of a shaky start to begin with. So, props to Marquez Cooper. He came in, he did his job. He got his numbers, he was trying to be strong for the offense. Last year, I just don't think it was the right mix of guys. You brought in a lot of transfers, new coach, new first year in the system. You got an offense that's hurt, trying to learn the system. I mean, so many pre-snap penalties, holding penalties, man down, field penalties. I mean, it was a hot mess. This year, it's got to be the strength. There's no playing around it. They've got to be able to just impose their will up front in the trenches and let these running backs run. Let Jaden Denegal run as well. Use that to your strength.
I mean, like you mentioned, their defense was on the field a lot, but it was a very strong defensive unit. People don't give their defense last year enough credit. And that's why I think you're seeing the hype around Trey White this year, because that top 50 defense in the country. It's just it doesn't show it because they're on the 3 and out with the freshman quarterback. Next thing you know, they're just on the field for 6 minutes. Now they're on the field for 6 minutes. Any defense, no matter who they are, is going to break at some point.
Absolutely, Trey White is an absolute animal. Led the nation midway through the year last year in sacks. Ended up with 12.5, which is third best in San Diego State history for a single season. This year, he's, as you probably already know, preseason Defensive Player of the Year, voted in the Mountain West. So, I mean, it's all on him, man. He's the leader. He's very, very well aware of the eyeballs and the attention that are going to be on him. We had a chance to interview him in the preseason leading up to camp. And, he just wants to set up his teammates. If he can draw a double team, which he knows is going to happen all year, and the other guys on the line can get that limelight, step up and make some plays, he's more than willing to be that guy and put it on his shoulders. The defense, like you said, yeah. I mean, they were put in some really tough spots last season. This year, they returned pretty much everyone. Everyone that came back was a starter at one point last season. The secondary's stacked. They've got to be more opportunistic, get some more turnovers. But it starts with Trey. I mean, he's going to create havoc, and everything falls from there into place, hopefully.
What's your expectation for Trey this year? Obviously, I think pretty good to anywhere near what he had last year. He probably wins Mountain West Defense Player of the Year. If he exceeds that, he's going to win it for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I'm not sure if the stats are going to line up exactly the same, right? The sacks, that number, and we talked about it with him. He knows he can't focus on a number of sacks, right? It's just got to be that constant pressure and creating that pressure-minded mentality to collapse on the pocket and however we can disrupt the quarterback. So, if the voters are going to go off of stats, I'm not sure. I think if they watch the game tape and they really understand what he's bringing to the table, it's not going to be tough to convince them that this dude is bringing it and he's really affecting the game in multiple ways.
I think that, like you said, the defense can keep them in games, but they got to set up Denegal. Denegal has to set them up for success. And, whether it's Denegal, Brett Emanuel Jr., whenever it is, if he does get on the field at some point, it's going to be interesting to see. How that offense evolves. I mean, what's the expectation for those running backs, like you mentioned, with the revamped offensive line, in a sense, it's a lot of big guys transferred in. What's that look like with them and with the running backs and wide receiver room?
So the running back room is pretty interesting going from last year to this year. There were a couple, starting caliber guys last year that basically transferred out. I think it was one of those situations where it was kind of okay, time to move on type of situation. I'm talking about Armstead and Cam Davis. Brought in are a couple San Diego kids, a couple bounce back guys, right? Christian Washington is somebody that went to New Mexico, then to Coastal Carolina. He's back in San Diego to play for the Aztecs. He brings a really good change of pace to Lucky, and that is Lucky Sutton. He's expected to be that running back workhorse guy. Showed a lot of potential and flashes of what he could do as a freshman last year. Didn't get any run, like whatsoever. It was all Marquez Cooper, right? A lot of us fans were scratching our head. What's going on? Why aren't we getting Lucky some carries? I think a year of learning behind Marquez Cooper, learning the offense, knowing what's really going to work with these coaches to get in their good graces, and that's really learning the playbook, understanding what they're trying to do. It's his time to shine. Lucky Sutton is very well known locally in San Diego. He was an absolute beast in high school. He's not your smaller running back. He's more cut from the cloth of like a Rashad Penny, just a big, imposing guy. Maybe doesn't have the lateral movement like a Rashad Penny or the Jets, but he's figured to be very, very tough to bring down once he gets if he could get past that first level. I mean, one-on-one with a linebacker or a safety is going to be really tough to bring him down. And then I slept on Byron Caldwell. He was in Oregon, then turned Cal. Now he's back home in San Diego, where he's from as well. Senior year, he's kind of had some injury issues in his younger years, and hopefully now as a senior, he's also got a very good physicality to him. I think him and Lucky may be that 1-2 punch with Christian Washington in there as well. So a very talented running back room.
I think that, if you like we've said, kind of repeated, Denegal can provide anything in the passing game, because, it didn't seem like Danny O'Neal kind of did that last year, but they can have any type of upgrade in the passing offense. It's going to open up holes for like the running back. And like you said, they don't have to be, San Diego State's never really had that, superstar quarterback. They've always had really good game managers who can make the throws when needed, but they need to be able to have the threat of throwing the football, so their running backs can be their superstars like they've been forever now.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. I mean, we've had some pretty talented quarterbacks in the recent years, especially in Brady Hoke's second tenure with us. Lucas Johnson, of course, Moose Maiden was another guy. Both guys are kind of similar, I think, to Denegal as far as they can sling it. They can also run and escape. I think Moose Maiden was very deadly running out of the pocket. He showed that in a few games. But I think it has more to do with Lewis's scheme. This is Coach Sean Lewis's opportunity. Yes, the players make the plays. They've got to be the ones to score the touchdowns, block, tackle, all that good stuff. But this is Coach Lewis's year. He's got to show that his scheme can translate quickly. Last year, it's a very different looking offense from what we saw, and it needs to be, and it is personnel wise, but it also needs to be execution wise. Whatever he wants to get done, they don't have to be perfect, but they've got to fall in line successfully with whatever his game plan is, for sure.
Do you think, if this year does not go well, that seat's going to get hot very fast?
It just depends. It really depends. I think they're really committed to him. I know they've brought in a young GM. I want to say Caleb Davis. He was one of the I want to say head of recruiting out there in Notre Dame. They brought him in as a GM. Right? It's kind of a new thing. A lot of college teams are starting to experiment with. Also, a very young leader. Him and Sean Lewis, very young guys. I think they're really committed to this duo and seeing what they can do. Now, if this year is a repeat 3-9 type of season, will the seat get hot? I think absolutely. I'll tell you right now. I mean, the seat is warm, but realistically, let's be real. That's fan talk. I think it's gonna take.
The only reason I'm asking is because if you think about where they were, like you mentioned, until the last 3 years, and then the move to the Pac-12, that seat can go. If they West, maybe it's not as hot, but with the move, the expectation to compete, the money they're spending to go to that conference, that puts higher expectations on your program.
Absolutely. And I will tell you this, some of the things I do really enjoy about Coach Lewis, He talks very fast, right? But he explains a lot. He's very, very intricate. He's very detailed with, even in his pressers, just how he talks. I've met him a couple times. Always been just incredibly gracious. The players love him. The players absolutely love him. They're buying into what he's preaching. They're not afraid to say it. That's been the focal point of this offseason, is really developing that brotherhood, not only just amongst themselves, but with the coaches, with the staff. And everybody seems to be very harmonious right now, right? Of course, that's easy to say when you're not winning or losing games yet. But for all intents and purposes, right now, everybody's bought in inside that locker room, which was not necessarily the case last year, right? So I think he's addressing his weaknesses last year. This year, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of togetherness. It's a lot of different things that they've got to do internally. Never mind what the fans think or their expectations or their talk online. He's doing what he's got to do to make sure his unit is tight, doesn't transfer out, and he had a pretty good recruiting class. Even after the 3-9 start, the recruiting class, I want to say, was like second or third in Mountain West behind Boise and maybe like Colorado State, which I think is kind of a sleeper team this year. But I will say, it's going to take a lot. I think you're right. That Pac-12 is going to probably extend that shelf life, whatever it is, whatever it happens to be at the end of this year. That infusion of something new of the Pac-12 and adding in Washington State, Oregon State, I think that will hopefully bode well, because they need every ounce of momentum, positive momentum this football program needs.
I think you hit it right on the head. Like, it's, you're replacing, some schools that, you had a mark as, oh, this is a guaranteed victory, to now every single week it's going to be legit competition. And that's no knock on the schools that stayed on the Mountain West. So I'm not trying to take it that way. But some schools didn't want to invest in football. UNLV really didn't recently, until the last couple of years, until they basically built Allegiant Stadium. They weren't investing in football like they should have been.
Not at all.
Sports programs the wrong way. And that's just, the realistic expectation of how things go. But, now when you go back and you look, it's like you're going to have the Fresno's who's always competitive every year. Boise's not going anywhere. You're adding schools like Oregon State, Washington State, like you mentioned. Oregon State and Washington State are going to have something to prove, because they feel like they've been left behind. So, They're going to start spending money. They want to win. They want to make the CFP just as much as everybody else. I've been on the hill of saying that the Pac-12 and football, on the football side, is, survive or die on the expectation of how well Boise State does. Because that's just, that's basically what the Mountain West has done. I mean, Boise State's the one going to those, New Year's Six bowls, the CFP. Like, it's, other schools can make bowls, but the expectations are different. If they keep the Power 5 status, you're a Power 5, you have a shoe into the CFP. The expectations, go from 10 to 100. And your co-host, I'll show it, he made a good point.
Fiend.
You roll your eyes at that bowl game, but now it's, that's what you get to. And it's going to be interesting to see the other bowl games that the Pac-12 has their tie-in.
Yeah.
So, it may not be the New Mexico Bowl or bowls like that anymore. It may be, the LA Bowl is a good bowl, and I'm not knocking it. It could be you're playing an ACC school. It could be you're playing a Pac-12 school. You could be playing a G5 that, like a UNLV last year, who those guys are going to prove a point because they felt like they've been slighted or they just missed their chance to make the CFP. So it's going to be very interesting to see what layout it goes. I mean, I feel like even like you mentioned, Colorado State being a sleeper. I mean, you're looking at Jay Norvell, who, I mean, last year he was very close to making the Mountain West Championship.
One game, one Fresno.
You can't imagine how close to watching that game.
That was great. And it was great theater. Leave it up to Fresno State to be spoilers, boy. I tell you, those dogs, those dirty dogs, can't stand those guys.
But when you think about it from that perspective, it's like, is Norvell potentially one game away from Mountain West Championship? But if he has another down year, increased expectations, it could be you're having the same conversation about him going into when you guys enter the Pac-12. So I think expectations really get higher. Schools want to win. Players are getting paid. They're different now.
And I will say,
before what it is.
I was gonna say, I will say in terms of Pac-12, we haven't even mentioned Texas State. You talk about expectations. who has more expectations than Texas State right now? And I love to see it. I love to see it. You know, they've got a great fan base. I've already reached out to a couple of their podcasters. They're just riding high on so much momentum right now, you know, and it's having that expectation. You can see they're united in that sense, right? From top to bottom, their leadership, their fans, their staff. And that's really what it takes to get to that level, to create that culture that we see Boise State have, that we see. Kudos to you guys in Las Vegas. You guys have your challenges financially. You got a lot of different things going on in Vegas. But I think if you guys continue to build those expectations, it'll be able to do some things. San Diego State, we got to get back to those expectations. Like Fiend said, that New Mexico Bowl, you look at the New Mexico Bowl out there in Albuquerque, and boy, it's not pretty. But we would kill for that bowl game to be back in the bowl mix. That's what you play for. It's not, like you said, players are getting paid, but at the end of the day, it's got to mean more than that. It's got to be worth more than that. And I think that's something that Sean Lewis is tapping into right now with his team. We don't have the highest NIL budget at all, not in the Mountain West, not nationally, that's for sure. But if you tap into that brotherhood, what you're really playing for, the money and all that stuff is great. It's great, but it's not everything. And I think he's already proved that with some of the players that have came back, guys like a Jordan Napier at wide receiver. He's going to be phenomenal this year. So can they put it all together? I don't know. Mountain West is tough this year, dude. I don't see many pancakes, maybe other than like Nevada. I'm hoping Nevada is still that pancake in our schedule. Top to bottom, I mean, it's going to be really tough. Fresno, Wyoming, we barely beat them last year. Hawaii's going to be tough, dude. Hawaii's going to be tough. San Jose State is contending these days. Good Lord.
Like I mentioned, I was going to say when I was talking to Nick Urias from San Jose, he does their play-by-play. He does their broadcast, and he has a podcast about San Jose State.
Okay.
He mentioned that, like, if you think, like, we talked that Reno's schedule is, and like Mord, it's brutal. And like he looked at New Mexico like as the potential cupcake, and it was like you look at their schedule, it's like it's brutal. And then like you look at a school like San Jose State, and it's like they play nobody. Like they missed Boise and UNLV and Colorado State. Like they play so it's like you mentioned though. There's gonna be. I was mentioning to him.
They do play Texas though. San Jose does play Texas. They do play Texas.
They're not beating Texas like that. But you know what I was gonna say was I mentioned to him, and like we kind of hit on at the very beginning of this. There's gonna be a lot of hatred between fan bases when schools play the schools that are leaving, and those environments are gonna be crazy. And like he mentioned, like the border war, Colorado State and Wyoming. You don't think Wyoming wants to win that game at Wyoming?
I would love to be there. I would love to be there. I went to the Wyoming game last year when we beat them. It was a great atmosphere, dude. I loved going to Laramie and watching some football. I'm sad I'm not going to be able to see us play them anymore in the future. Hopefully that happens, but I really doubt it. But it was a great environment out there, dude. That game's going to be war.
Even he mentioned, like, it made sense too. Like he mentioned, like, the Air Force versus Colorado State game. Battle basically of Colorado. And from a Mountain West perspective, like, yeah, I highly doubt they're going to play each other again after this year.
Hey, you better believe I'm gonna be out there in Hawaii. This might be the last time we play Hawaii for a while. And I mean, that's a team I think should automatically be in the new Pac-12. Hawaii. I mean, you can't get any more Pacific in the Pacific Ocean than freaking Hawaii Rainbow Warriors.
Hey, no offense, they're not Hawaii State, so they can't make the
Pac-12. Honolulu State. Honolulu's not a state.
They might as well just rename themselves Honolulu State. I was happy for them that the Mountain West finally gave them the full share that they deserved. I mean,
yeah, they're turning a corner, man. They're turning a corner, and they really need it. I think they're going to get that stadium redeveloped finally. I think that got approved. They're finally going to be able to watch their TV games without having to pay per view locally. Like, that's just absolutely ridiculous. If you haven't interviewed the Rainbow Wrap-Up guys, you need to have those guys on, man. They're fantastic. Hawaii sports fans. So I'm definitely going to be out there for that game. That's one that I'm sad that game's going to go away. I mean, we always have competitive games with them.
It may not go away. You never know.
I hope not. I think that's a no-brainer. Even if they're in the Mountain West and we're not, like, you got to schedule that at least, maybe twice every decade at least.
I think that some of the schools are going to have good relationships with some of the schools that left, but then some of the schools won't, and it's that's just how it's going to be. I think people are probably the Boise's, the San Diego States are probably, my opinion, going to stay away from like UNLV and schools like that. But I could see them, like, I could see them, San Diego State basketball, scheduling New Mexico as a non-conference game.
They better.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain schools that like, okay, I can see this. You know, there's certain matchups. Like, it sucks though that some of these like rivalries that aren't official rivalries are going away. If people don't want to, I mean, it's a fan base rivalry. You know, like San Diego State and UNLV. Like, yeah, we know San Diego State wins a lot in Vegas, but you know,
Wait, what was that? Wait, I didn't hear you. You cut out.
You heard San Diego State. You know, they it's just some of those schools have those numbers, and those fan bases go after each other, and it's great. And it's some of those things that are going to be missed. I mean, you don't see. I mean, this you don't see a lot of fans that are talking about. What do you call it? You know, Nevada fan, or I'm sorry, Reno fans, or but you know, the Utah State fans, the UNLV fans, the San Diego State fans. I mean, you have like the 2 Fresno pages that respond to anything, and then like you have like, you know, even the Washington State. I mean, Oregon State fans love going after UNLV fans. I'm not sure why. Like,
I don't know why either.
The funniest thing to me about that whole situation is they talk shit. I'm sorry, pardon my language. They talk shit about UNLV's football program, which we know it's historically terrible. But like, you look at Oregon State's history, they are a sub 500 all-time football program also. Like they're like, well, look at the last 15 years. You've had 5 winning seasons. UNLV's had, or you've had 4 winning seasons in the last 15 years. UNLV's had 3. Like, what is like it's just so, it's funny to me. Like, and then like you look at some of these schools and you like look at the history. It's like you claim that you're some dominant program, but you're 4-2. You're 2-4 all time against a apparently horrific program in UNLV. Like what? Like, I don't understand. You can't even get that right.
They've got terrific fans in the Pacific Northwest. You know, both Washington State and Oregon State. They've got terrific fans. But my old co-host back in the days when this whole situation blew up, he said it perfectly. To Washington State fans and Oregon State fans, we're saying, come to daddy. Come back down to earth, guys. You guys are not the top dogs in your state. Never have been, never will be. You guys are the bottom cellar dwellers in the Pac-12, living off of USC, UCLA, Oregon money. Their ego is inflated so stinking much, but I love them for it because they're great fans. They have great tradition. They bring a lot. And I will say this. Props to them for fighting the good fight, keeping the Pac-12 alive. There's national talking heads out there that just love to bash the Pac-12 and say, oh, they should have just merged with the Mountain West. They shouldn't be going through all this litigation, all this nonsense. It's all for nothing. And it's like, it's so short-sighted. It's such an elitist point of view, not really understanding that they had to fight to keep that branding and all those millions of dollars that were just there for the taking. If they didn't fight for it, all that money would have been dispersed equally, or however it would have been dispersed among all those teams that left for the Big Ten and the Big 12. So, I mean, hey, props to them for fighting the good fight, but welcome to your new reality. San Diego State's going to jump you guys so bad in the next 10 years. It's not even a joke.
The funny thing is, too, if you think about last season, they love to make the excuse of their football team was injured. But, like, you went 1-4 against the Mountain West. You lost in Nevada, you know, that won 2 games. Like your basketball program could not even compete in the WCC.
They got baseball though. They do got baseball.
I was gonna say, I do love baseball, and what, you know, San Diego State's historically a really good baseball program. Fresno's a really good baseball program. Oregon State is, you know, a dominant baseball program. Dallas Baptist is a very, very good baseball program that people don't talk about.
That was an eyebrow raiser. I haven't made a lot of fuss about it because admittedly, I'm not like the biggest college baseball guy. I've getting into it a lot lately, but my other guys, they handle that. But yeah, that was an eyebrow raiser. I'm interested in that. You know, they're really trying to be my buddy Posey's like the best of the West, right? I mean, they're really just trying to gobble up Gonzaga. Hope maybe St. Mary's happens. I don't know, but Gonzaga, I mean, that's huge.
That talk was hot for a while, then it just died. I don't know. St. Mary's is very interesting to me because like they're good every single year in basketball. They have a good baseball program too, but it's also like, are they taking the approach of like, well, let's not follow Gonzaga, let's take over what Gonzaga, like, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those, like, maybe that's why they're in no rush. They want to see how a year in a league without Gonzaga goes.
Yeah, I mean, they could be that big dog in their conference, which is, really tightly knit, right? A lot of obvious, religious institutions. There's a lot of tight bonds there. It goes beyond just the playing fields, right? So, these institutions that have been together for a long time, they're well aware of the culture that they represent and all those different factors. So, you're right. Maybe they're taking a year to see, okay, let's see how this thing goes without, Gonzaga there to kind of be big brother. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think with the new what is it, the CW that the Pac-12 is potentially bringing into the media deal. I think that maybe that plays a part into it. Waiting to see, okay, well, does it work beneficially for both sides to in the media deal and the money? Because it still comes down to all that at the end of the day. But there's a lot of other strings attached, I'm sure, with St. Mary.
Yeah, and I think too, like it's going to be interesting to see like what the media deal turns out to be for the Pac-12, what the media deal turns out to be for the Mountain West, what even the WCC, like nobody talks about that aspect of it too. What is their potential new media deal look like without Gonzaga? Yeah. Like, is it going to be like how far below is it going to be below the Pac-12 and below the Mountain West? Not saying, the expectation for the Mountain West is not to be even crazy high. So it's like he's going to have an even lower bar. What is that bar going to be? And, it's maybe that's when the Pac-12 comes back and be like, you know what, here's this money, here's this amount you could be getting, come join us. Or, like you mentioned, they're just happy. And some schools are just happy where they're at. And that's always okay too. Like, they're happy. They know that they can compete. They know that they can be the dominant force. And that's just, the reality of what it is.
It's kind of like looking at Gonzaga. Well, they did it for so many years. Why can't we do it now in their place, in their stead? One thing I'll have to say about that is because I didn't really think about that. They are the other West Coast Conference, man. Tons of schools on this side of the country. There's always going to be room and opportunity for those teams, for TV, for, let's face it, sports gambling. That inventory it's big and it's not going to go away anywhere anytime soon. There's always a desire for it. There's always interest for it because there's always money that's going to be circulated for it. So get in where you fit in, go where you can grow, and that's all it is.
So so circling back real quick before we end, what is your prediction and what is your expectation for San Diego State football this year?
Man, I haven't even put out predictions through my own channels. I hope nobody bashes me over the head for this. No, you know what? I'll give you.
What's the best game on their schedule, or maybe games that they have a chance to pull an upset, or beat a school that they shouldn't?
Man, I don't know if they're going to be favored in much any of these games this year, to be honest with you. But I think Cal and Washington State are kind of coming back down from where they were last year. Both lost a lot of players to the portal. I think NIU is an interesting game. I'm going to be out there in Illinois for that game, in DeKalb, Illinois. Fiend. I'll be out there.
You mean Chicago like they claim?
Yeah. But you know what, man? I think I'll give a window. I think anywhere between, 5 wins and 7 wins, I think is like what we're looking at. I'll be fine with either one of those. This is a really weird year for me as a fan. I've been covering this team for close to 7 years now with Sons of Montezuma. And, when you cover it, it's different than just a fan covering it. You're really looking into it. So I'm not so pressed. Like, we don't need to win the whole thing this year. Do I want that to happen? Absolutely. But, I'm looking for steady progress like I opened up with. So I think anywhere 5 and 7 wins would be realistic and would be fine by me. I think that's kind of what I think is what's going to happen. A big upset game. I don't know if there is a really big upset game other than Boise. We don't play you guys. That would be a big upset, UNLV. But Cal, I think Cal at home. If we can win our first 2 games, Stony Brook, FCS Stony Brook, and then go on the road and beat Wazoo in their house, if we can pull off those 2 victories, we get a bye week, an extra week to prepare for Cal coming back home. It's already being billed as really the big first home game. That's going to be an interesting one because our defense really hung with them last year. Offense just couldn't make anything happen on the road. So I think that's the game we're circling on, and that'll be a big one to kind of get our ears perked if they win that one.
You saw what your co-host said about Oregon State?
What did he say? We can't talk crap about Oregon State. They daddied us in the last 2 times we have played them in football. Yes, I have been to 2 road games in Corvallis. Both of them were not pretty. They start bringing out the chainsaw noises on their loudspeakers, and all you hear is "Go Beeve, go Beeve." It's funny, but I appreciate it. I got my Bucky's the Beaver koozie, but
I think Bucky's is a lot better place than Oregon State, but that's just me.
I agree.
I did not go to that game last year up there, but
it's a little journey. Yeah. It's a little journey.
Yeah.
You fly into Portland and you still got to drive, out in the middle of the forest or whatever, lands to get out there to Corvallis. But it's a cool little college town. It's cool. It's very scenic, atmospheric. It's not like the city boys like we are, in Vegas and San Diego. But sure beats going to Logan, Utah.
You mean one of the top 5 most dangerous college towns in the country?
Logan, Utah.
Like it was just voted as. So if you want to know something very funny before we hop off this.
Dangerous for who?
Yeah, I thought that. But so that list came out and Dan Mullen tweeted the article link and say, come to Vegas if you want to go to a safe college. Because the number one city that was listed on that as number 1 dangerous college town is Gainesville.
They're going to start chanting safety school.
So I was like, he must be very salty still that they fired him, even if it is 2 or 3 years later.
Well, I don't have much more to say about that. I'm going to leave that one. I'll leave that one alone.
I was very surprised that Logan, Utah was number 5 on that list. I was like, what?
Dangerous for who? I mean, do I have to say it? People of my complexion, maybe? No, I'm just joking. No, dangerous for ice cream. Dangerous for ice cream.
I mean, I wasn't served there most of the time. So I was like, what are we stealing at this point?
Now, I love Utah. I love the state of Utah. I've spent a lot of time down in Zion and all the national parks. I mean, it's amazing. It's an incredible place, but not impressed with any other cities. Salt Lake City, not impressed, man.
Salt Lake City's just like any other major city to me. Yeah. And, Zion's a pretty place. St. George is decent, but like St. George has some pretty golf courses. I will say that. But other than, that, it's just another major city in another state. A lot of these major cities are, are similar in many different ways. I mean, San Diego has the beach, Vegas has the Strip, Dallas has their Metroplex and barbecue. Like, they all have their own niche in a sense, but, at the end of the day, they're pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same. And we're all trying to get to the peak this year. So, hey.
Yep. And
best of luck to you guys, man. Best of luck to you guys.
We definitely got to do this again, especially before basketball season starts. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of shit talking, and it's going to be great.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Can't wait to get out there in Vegas. We'll be out there. We'll be out there plenty this year. Players tournament. That's going to be fun. You guys are in it. Yeah. That'll be fun. And looking forward to our final year at the Thomas and Mack in the tournament. That'd be great.
I'm sure you guys want to win on your way out.
We want to win. We want to burn it down.
It has its glory. I mean, it's a great arena. I'm sure you've been around it. When UNLV's good and it's rocking, it's a great environment to play in, win or lose for UNLV. Like, when UNLV was, back when they were making an NCAA tournament consistently, and there was 18,000 in there for the San Diego State games. That arena was rocking. It's going to take I really like what Pastner has done. Building the roster, getting out in the community, putting a lot of like trying to get the fans back. But a lot of fans are wait and see, and I think you may not be there in the final year, but you never know. I mean, hopefully they can get some big wins, maybe win a game or two in the Players era, steal one. Neutral court games, anything can happen. You guys know that, especially from the NCAA tournament run. Anything can happen anywhere. One bounce goes your way. Like the Lamont Butler bounce that he caught the rebound and hit the game winner.
Lamont Butler has no luck. It's all ice in the veins for Lamont.
That was
clutch.
Oh, hell yeah, it was. like I said, I'm not one of those guys. You have to respect what San Diego State has done from a basketball perspective for years. It's just like as much as people don't like Boise State in football, you have to respect what they've done. Like it's not easy keeping that program, any program, the level that it is, being consistently picked to win the conference in any sport. San Diego State's almost every year in basketball. Yeah. Boise State's been 15 straight years in football. Like it's very hard to keep it that way. especially nowadays in the transfer portal. So you can have, your people can not like the schools, but you have to respect them.
When everybody's gunning for you, everybody's gunning for you at the top. It's heavy as the crown, they say.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you again for doing this. It was fun. Definitely keep in touch, and we'll definitely link up again right before basketball season.
Appreciate you, Mike. All Rebel Nation out there, have fun this year. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys soon enough. We'll see you guys soon enough with the Goon Squad. We'll be ready.